this is the history of product management, part one. And I'll be very honest with us, right? The full history of product management is a bit tricky to actually pin down completely. But there are some key moments that has really shaped the way we see product management today. Please do not unmute your mic except you are asked to try to mute your mic. Thank you very much. Right? If you have something to say, kindly raise up your hand and you'll be called upon. Do not unmute your mic, please. Thank you very much. So like I was saying, the history cannot be explained, in full, but I'm going to point out some of the key moments that has really shaped the way we see product management today. So we are going to go over those key moments, right? So let's try to rewind a bit. Product management as a role is actually pretty new if you think about it. Now, back in the day, I'm talking like early 20th century, companies mostly focused on making things and just selling them out directly to whoever is interested, right? There wasn't really anyone dedicated enough to be thinking about the whole, product experience from start to finish, gathering teams and all of those things. In fact, one of the earliest mentions of something like product management came from a company called Procter and Gamble, right? And that happened in the 1930s, right? It happened that early. Now, this is the time where we get into the story proper, the story I mentioned earlier, right? Let's get into it. Now, it all started back in 1931 with an upcoming 26-year-old employee at Procter and Gamble. Please confirm you can still hear me. You can give me a thumbs up to know that you can hear me. Hello, can anyone hear me, please? Much. Right, so, and Gamble, brand, right? But the memo ended up being a big deal along the line, right? It basically laid the foundation for what we today know as product management. So what did this brand man actually do? Or in, so it's breaking, I can barely hear you. Okay, is any other person having that issue? Can you hear me clearly, please? Princeville, can you hear me clearly now? I can now. Okay, thank you very much. I think I'm just going to go over that again. Sorry about that. Okay, I said that this 26-year-old wrote a memo titled Brand Man, and that at first he just needed a group of people to help him sort out, a product he was working on. But then the memo became a talk of the town. It became a big deal. And because of that, it laid the foundation for product management. The foundation we have today was laid because of that memo. So the guys that he put together were called the brand men, right? So now what did these brand men actually do? Now, they were on the marketing team and they were in charge of the entire brand, right? This meant that they had to monitor sales, they had to manage advertising, they had to run promotions, basically to just own the success, of the product from start to finish. Now, imagine Neil, right, as a junior executive at Procter and Gamble. working on an ad campaign for a soap, right? I hope we're all following me, please. Working for an ad campaign for a soap called Kame. Now, Kame is a British brand of bar soap owned owned by Unilever. It was introduced in 1926 by Procter and Gamble and was marketed as a white pure soup for women back then, actually. Now, Kame was competing with another P&G product, Ivory soap. Now, if you're a Nigerian on this call, you would know that Ivory soap used to be very popular. Do I have anybody who can be a witness? You know of Ivory soap? It's in the class of Ivory, Eva, Joy. Have you guys used that, or am I on my own? Hello, please let me know you're with me. Yes, Titilayo. Yeah. Good. So Ivory soap was in the class of, of those ones. Now, so naturally, Ivory got all the attention and Kame was kind of left behind because Ivory was a product of P&G. So naturally, he got all the attention. Now, Neil got frustrated. Imagine you're managing a project or a product, and then because of some other popular brand, you cannot really have sales, you cannot really get people to work on that particular product with you. And it's so frustrating, right? Now, Neil got very frustrated and wrote a memo. Now, you would think that the memo should, be something short and concise, but it really wasn't. Rather, it was a full 3-page, 800 words memo. Can you imagine? That was like a lot to write. And the memo was to ask for, more people in the promotions team. But now here's the twist. In that memo, he laid out a whole new role, which he called the brand end to end. Someone who would get out there talking to dealers, consumers, customers, figuring out what the problem was, what problems they had, and trying to fix them, right? And trying to fix them to the customer. Okay. Is it any better? Okay, guys, please give me 1 second to kind of change my network. Uh, thank you. Okay, so like I said, in the memo, he laid out a whole new role that he called the brand man, right? So he was basically just looking for people to help him out. Now, he wasn't just trying to find, a guy that could write ads, right? He wanted somebody that he could trust, someone he could trust with, an end-to-end of a product, somebody that could go there to talk to customers, consumers, figure out what their problems were, right, and how to fix them. He basically wanted, to make decision making a lot easier, right? So that it's not just some command that falls from the sky, right? Now, moving on. Sorry. Now, this memo is actually best of what back then they called brand management, which later evolved into what we now know as product management, right? His brand men were the first to own the customer's voice and really, really dive into product discovery, even down to tweaking, product wrappers, product covers, and packs. Right now, the idea worked so well that P&G got even stronger. Now, Neil went on to become, P&G's president, as you can see it on the screen, right? He went ahead to become president and even Secretary of Defense of the US later on. Now, one really important point from McRoy's memo was about getting your hands dirty on the job, not just sitting at the desk, but going out into the field, talking to customers, testing things yourself, right? And even today, that idea, learning directly from user, is like one of the core parts of being a product manager. The idea that Neil brought went on to become P&G's best ideas, right? And Neil was also advanced that he became the president and even Secretary of Defense for the US later on. Now, one really important point from McCoy's memo was about getting your hands dirty, right? For lack of a better term, on the job, getting your hands dirty on the job. Not just sitting at the desk, but going out to the field, talking to customers, testing things out yourself, and even today, that idea, learning directly from the user, is a core part of product management. Remember, we're trying to lay a foundation as to what product management is all about and who a product manager is, right? And we are done with that that story. That network was trying to interrupt. I'm so sorry. I hope we got something though. I hope we're able to get something out of it. Can you guys hear me? Yes, Adiola. Thank you very much. All right, so we are going to have move into the, another history. Now, I'm going to be using some terms here that, we might not really be familiar with, but don't fret, right? Because along the line, you're going to, get familiar with these terms. Now, in the 1970s, we had something called the waterfall model, right? The waterfall model is a strict step-by-step process for developing products, especially software products. Now, in the course of this, of this, we are focusing on software products, right? So the problem was that it was slow, right? It was a bit slow and very tedious to use. Different teams worked on it separately, and they didn't really, get the most out of it because, like I said, they worked on it separately. So their communication skills were poor and the product was difficult to use. Now, I need you to take note of communication, working together, all of those terms. Those are terms that you're going to come across with as a result of this training. In product management, you're going to hear those terms a lot right now. Then in 1986, two researchers introduced another thing called Scrum. Also take notes of this. The first one I mentioned was waterfall, right? The second one is called Scrum. Now, two researchers introduced Scrum in the Harvard Business Review. Now, instead of a relay race where you pass the baton, Scrum is like Ruby. Everyone moves together as a team, passing the ball back and forth to adapt quickly, right? Scrum introduced overlapping work phases and constant collaboration. Now, if you're working together as a team, passing the ball at the same time back and forth, it means you're staying together in communication, you're staying together, doing everything together. Nobody's missing any information, nobody's missing out on any part, right? So it was constant collaboration, and it was faster and better for today's fast-paced changing market. Now we're going to talk in detail about Scrum in our, as the class progresses, right? Now, we had somebody called Jeff Sutherland and Ken, later formalized as, Scrum in 1993. And that's when product owner role also appeared. Now, also take note of this, product owner, right? We have product manager, and now we are talking about product owner. Okay, the role of the product owner also appeared then. I'm not sharing my screen. Hold on. Network has really messed with me today. Sorry, guys. Okay, so I am now in the history of product management part 2, right? And you guys got everything I said, right? Okay, thank you very much, Chukwemeka. Okay, so I'm just going to move on so that we don't waste our time. And then, like I said, Jeff and Ken later brought out Scrum in 1993, and that's when the term product owner also appeared. We have product management, we have project management, now we have product owner. Now, as the class progresses, we are going to see the difference between these roles, right? Now, still, product management roles were rare, even in the 1990s. Then came the internet boom, right? When the internet came. By the mid-90s, the web exploded, hundreds of thousands of websites, millions of users, and companies like Amazon growing at, lightning speed. The old models, they just couldn't keep up, right? The old things that they were using, the mouth to mouth, it wasn't keeping up anymore. So in 2001, rather, 17 software engineers, including Sutherland, right, the person that formalized Scrum, Sutherland and Ken, right, they met at a ski resort and created the Agile Manifesto. Now, take note of this other word again, Agile, right? We have brought in Waterfall, we have brought in Scrum, and now we are mentioning Agile, right? Take note of these terminologies, right? The Agile Manifesto, they focused on values like, individual and interaction over processes and tools. They focused on working software over documentation. They focused on customer collaboration over contract negotiations, responding to change over following a plan, right? So they put the customer first, just like Neil. Remember in the other story, we had Neil who tried everything to make sure that the customer comes first. So these people, they put the customer first, right? And they emphasized continuous delivery and flexibility. Now, Agile took off, and the frameworks like Scrum and Kanban, now I've mentioned another terminology, Kanban, right, became the new normal, right, for teams that want to, move forward and move fast without losing quality, right? So now I need you to understand something. The fact that you're using Agile does not mean you have to reduce your quality, right? Agile and Scrum and all of these other terminologies, they're here to help you Still do what you have to do, but at an increased pace and still maintaining your quality, right? So now I have said all of these, ancient stories. What does this all mean for us today? Us, especially us as, product managers, right? At its core, like I need you to understand that product manager is still about understanding your customer's problem, right? That is the pain point, that is the solution, that is everything. If you understand your customer's problem as a product manager, you have solved 75% of your problems, right? So Neil, the brand man, started by saying, go see the problem, find the pain point, and then you fix them. So you go out, you search for the problem, you see it, you find where it's hurting the user, and you come as a physician and you fix it for them, right? Now, the tools and method might keep changing, right? We might keep bringing waterfalls from Agile, right? Those methods might keep changing. They might keep evolving. Please take note, whoever that is. It might keep evolving, right? But the customers, they never go away. Your customers still remain, right? So, and like the popular saying that we all know, customers are always right, right? Now, so let's take a quick shout out. I would want us to just give a quick shout out to all the pioneers, all the ancient Mark or Roy, in all the innovators who helped us learn how to make better products by, really, really listening to our customers. Nneka, are you just joining us? Shout out to who? To all the ancient product managers, right? That is who we are giving the shout out to, right? Who actually listened to customers, right? Who actually help us solve products, right? Okay. I have said a lot. I am going to take a pause now to let us ask questions. Apologies for that, right? Before I move on, I would like us to, if you have a question, if you have any concerns, just let me know. Please raise your hand before you speak. Okay, 3, 2, 1. No hand is raised, so I'm going to assume that everything is fine. Okay, thank you, guys. So let's move on to another part. So now this is the learning objective, basically what we are going to be doing in this whole bootcamp, right? Our learning objective. We're going to be looking at how to understand product management and why it matters. We are going to learn the key responsibilities of a product manager, and we are going to differentiate product management from project management because this particular one has been causing problems. So we are going to dissect it and understand it better in the course of this cohort. And then we're going to define what a product is and its characteristics, right? We're going to define a product and we are going to pick the kind of products we are going to be talking about in this cohort, right? And then we are also going to build our first PRD, our user stories, and our product strategies. I understand that these terms might sound, foreign to some of us, but no issue, no fears, okay, no worries. We are going to understand it as time goes on, right? So we are going to build our first PRDs, our user stories, and product strategies. And we are going to learn how to collaborate with designers and developers, understand product life cycle and agile methods. Remember, I mentioned agile earlier. And then we are going to get our hands dirty. Like I mentioned, we are going to go into product management tools. We are going to be looking at Trello. We're going to be looking at Confluence. We are going to be looking at Figma because even as a product manager, you need to know how to, navigate Figma. We're going to be looking at Google Docs, Notion. We're going to be looking at Linear and many other product management tools. So just stay tuned, okay? And we are going to look at all of this. Now, what to expect? Okay, this, as we already know, is a live class. So you're going to be having your live classes every Tuesdays and every Thursdays by 1 p.m. And then you're going to, at the end of this cohort, you're going to have a part where you get to build your real products, right? You get to work with teams to build real products, and you get to have hands-on experiences, right? You get to have hands-on experiences. You work in groups and you do presentations, right? And then you also have access to resources and mentorship. I mean, for some of us that are already on the Discord channel, you're already seeing, the engagements and communications that are going on over there, and of course the LMS as well. So yeah, this is what you should expect and what you are going to be getting from KodeCamp 5.0 product management track, right? So that is summarily that for us today. Like I said, we are just going to be laying a foundation, and we're going to spend a chunk amount of time to sort out people with issues with their LMS and their Discord. So that is where we are heading to now. Right. Thank you guys so much for joining today's call. We have 33 persons on the call right now. Thank you all so much.